You need to hear this, because two major developments in the disappearance of Lynette Hooker have just surfaced, and when you place them side by side, they construct a picture that Brian Hooker cannot explain his way out of. The first, reporter Brian Entin, who has been covering this case on the ground, sat down with Lynette's daughter Carly and her boyfriend Steve, and walked away with new details about what Carly revealed. Specifically, what Brian Hooker said to Lynette 2 years before she vanished. What he threatened to do to her, in her own words told to her own daughter. The second, investigative journalist Ashleigh Banfield has confirmed through witnesses, family members, and photographic analysis that Soulmate had multiple cameras on board. Specific cameras, identified by brand, in specific locations, including a Blink security camera system that automatically uploads footage to cloud servers that CGS can reach with a federal subpoena. And when you combine those two things, a man who specifically threatened to throw his wife overboard, and a boat that may have captured exactly what took place the night she disappeared, one word keeps rising to the surface: charges. Now, Brian Hooker has not been charged with any crime. His attorneys maintain his innocence. He has denied any wrongdoing completely and consistently. We carry that through every single part of this episode, every time, without exception. But the direction this investigation is heading, the language coming out of the Coast Guard, the cameras on that boat, and what Carly told Brian Entin directly on camera, all of it is pointing in one direction. Let's get into it. Let me start with the official language, because I believe it carries more weight than most people have recognized. Per the official Coast Guard news release, confirmed and published by military.com on May 15, 2026, here is exactly what they said. Special agents with the United States Coast Guard Investigative Service, supported by multiple Coast Guard surface and aviation assets, seized the sailing vessel Soulmate, approximately 40 nautical miles off the coast of Melbourne, Florida, as part of an ongoing criminal investigation into the disappearance of Lynette Hooker. Stop right there. Ongoing criminal investigation, not a missing person inquiry, not a search and rescue effort, not a welfare check, an ongoing criminal investigation. That is a specific, deliberate, legally weighted choice of language. And it matters enormously. Per military.com, the seizure was carried out during what they described as a complex surveillance and interdiction operation, coordinated by CGS alongside Coast Guard surface assets from Sector Miami and aviation units from Air Station Miami. Complex surveillance and interdiction operation. That tells you they were watching. They tracked that boat from the air. They had surface vessels positioned and ready. They planned this. They executed it with precision. This was not improvised. This was a coordinated federal law enforcement operation with air and sea assets working in synchronized formation. And per the official statement, the vessel Soulmate is currently in the custody of CGS as part of an active criminal investigation. Due to the ongoing nature of the investigation, no additional details are being released at this time. Active criminal investigation. Ongoing. No additional details. Here is what I need you to understand about those words. When the federal government uses the phrase active criminal investigation, they are not being casual. They are not using it as a holding statement. They are using it because a crime is what they believe occurred. They have opened a criminal case. They have sworn federal agents working it. They have seized the vessel they believe sits at the center of it. This is no longer a missing persons case. This is a criminal investigation, and the boat at the heart of it is in federal hands right now. Per CBS News, two sources with knowledge of the investigation confirmed the seizure. Per CBS News, the CGS probe into the disappearance of Michigan mother Lynette Hooker has intensified in recent days. according to a source briefed on the matter, intensified in recent days. That is where we are. So let me tell you what reporter Brian Entin did this week. Because he traveled to Fort Pierce, got as close to Soulmate as he could, spoke to people on the ground, and what he confirmed matters. Per Brian Entin's reporting, he was at the Fort Pierce Coast Guard station where Soulmate is currently docked. He confirmed crime scene tapes surrounding the vessel. He confirmed that Coast Guard investigators have been boarding and departing the boat repeatedly, photographing evidence, examining the interior, removing items in sealed evidence bags. He was unable to deploy a drone because the airspace surrounding the Coast Guard facility requires specific clearances his crew could not obtain in time. But from a source close to the investigation, he confirmed something important. There is significant activity happening behind the scenes, and we should expect to see more movement and more progress in the coming weeks. More movement, more progress in the coming weeks. That is not the language of a stalled investigation. That is the language of something building toward a conclusion. Entin also drew attention to something specific in the official Coast Guard photographs that were released. The aerial image of Soulmate out in the open Atlantic, captured during the surveillance phase before the interception. That image, per his analysis, is consistent with what he has personally witnessed during Coast Guard surveillance flights. He has been airborne with the Coast Guard on 3 separate occasions over the years, and recognizes what those images look like at that altitude and angle, which means the Coast Guard was tracking Soulmate from the air before they ever moved on it on the water. They knew exactly where it was. They had eyes on it the entire time. Brian Hooker, sitting in Michigan, believed his boat was quietly making its way back to him. It was not. Now, here is a detail I do not believe has received nearly enough attention. It comes from Brian Entin's reporting, sourced through Fox News Digital. A friend of Brian Hooker's, a man named Blaine Stevenson, spoke to Fox News Digital. Here is what he said. The incident happened Saturday at 7:30 in the evening. Brian came ashore at 4 in the morning. Search and rescue took him out for 3 or 4 hours and then brought him back to his boat. He sat on his boat for almost 24 hours until search and rescue returned his dinghy. 24 hours on that boat, alone, while Lynette was still missing. Think about that. Brian Hooker claims the worst night of his life unfolded on April 4th. He says he lost his wife. He says she went into the water and he could not save her. He says she was the love of his life. And after being returned to Soulmate by fire and rescue, he remained on board for 24 hours. While volunteers were in the water searching, while rescue teams were actively looking, while Lynette was out there somewhere, and he did not go back out. He did not offer additional information. He did not contact anyone in Lynette's family. Per reporting, he sent Carly a matter-of-fact voicemail. Not a phone call, a voicemail, roughly 24 hours after his wife went missing. Per Entin's reporting, this is what Blaine Stevenson said. At no point did he really look at the situation and give anybody any more details than he had at the beginning when he was supposedly in shock. Even if he accepts the fact his wife is gone, does he not want closure? Does he not want redemption? Those are not my words. Those are the words of someone described as Brian Hooker's friend, a person who knew Brian and who cannot reconcile what he witnessed with the conduct of a grieving husband. Then contrast that with something else Entin highlighted, Brian Hooker's own Facebook post following Lynette's disappearance. He wrote, I am heartbroken over the recent boat accident in unpredictable seas and high winds that caused my beloved Lynette to fall from our small dinghy. We continue to search for her, and that is my sole focus. Continuing to search. But per his own friend, he searched for 3 to 4 hours, sat on the boat for 24 hours, and left the Bahamas the following day. Sole focus. Now, here is the part of Brian Entin's coverage that I believe is the most significant and the most heartbreaking. He sat down with Carly Ellsworth, Lynette's daughter, and her boyfriend Steve. And Carly said something directly on camera that I want to walk through carefully.
Of your stepdad? I mean, what raises the alarm bells?
Um, for one, he's already made this threat 2 years ago that this exact thing was going to happen to her, that he would make sure this would happen to her. And he's threatened it, I'm pretty sure, multiple times and has done actions to her that have hurt her. So the fact that this is happening now is kind of coincidental, I guess, or it's just funny because you said that you were going to do this and now it's happening. So why wouldn't I just believe your story?
Entin asked her what makes her suspicious of her stepfather. What raises the alarm for her? And Carly said, for one, he already made this threat 2 years ago. That this exact thing was going to happen to her. That he would make sure this would happen to her. He threatened it multiple times and has done things to her that have hurt her. So the fact that this is happening now, it is kind of coincidental. He said he was going to do this. And now it is happening per Carly's direct account to Brian Entin. When she visited her mother in Florida in 2024, during a period when Brian and Lynette had separated. Lynette told her what Brian had done and said, he choked her, he threatened to kill her, and he told her he would throw her overboard so that nobody could find her. Let me say that one more time. He told Lynette he would throw her overboard so that nobody could find her. Per CNN reporting, Carly Ellsworth told CNN that in January 2026, just 3 months before Lynette disappeared, her mother told her Brian had threatened to throw her off their boat during a fight in 2024. That threat, that specific threat, 3 months before she vanished. Per Fox News, Carly told them directly, there is a history of him choking her out and threatening to throw her overboard. So the fact that this is actually happening makes me believe there is more to the story now. Brian Hooker has denied all of this. His attorneys have categorically denied the allegations made by Carly Ellsworth. He has maintained from the beginning that this was a tragic accident and nothing more. But here is the legal reality, and per legal experts consulted on cases of this nature, prior specific threats, against a specific victim, describing a specific method, in the specific location where she subsequently disappeared. That is the kind of prior conduct that prosecutors document with precision, and that juries weigh heavily. He threatened to throw her overboard. She disappeared from a boat. Both of those facts are now on the record, on camera, in Carly's own words, in Brian Entin's publicly available interview. I want to spend a moment on something else that came out of that interview, because we owe it to Lynette to hear it. Entin asked Carly to tell him about her mother. Who was she? And Carly said, she is very adventurous. She loved to sail and explore new things. She was also very crafty. She liked to sew. She made biminis for other people's boats. She did a lot of work on her own boat. She loved to exercise. She did yoga on the boat. If there was a gym or a boot camp nearby, she would show up and join. We also ran together a lot. She ran with her daughter. She sewed the bimini on her own boat. She built that life with her own hands, her own savings, her own abilities. And Steve, Carly's boyfriend, said something that stayed with me. He said Carly's birthday fell just 1 week before Mother's Day. And then it was Mother's Day, back to back, without her mother, without answers. Carly also said, when Entin asked whether she believes Brian will ever tell the truth, that they are considering eventually giving him an ultimatum. Tell us where she is, and maybe less sentencing will follow. But she doubts he will because of the possibility he believes he could still walk away. She is 29 years old. She is thinking through legal strategy. how to extract her mother's location from the man who helped raise her. Because she does not believe her mother is in the water. She believes Brian knows exactly where Lynette is. That is where this family is, right now. Now, here is the second major development we are covering tonight. And this one is significant in an entirely different way, because it is not about what Brian said. It is about what a boat recorded. Ashleigh Banfield, who has been investigating this case in extraordinary depth through her Drop Dead Serious podcast, has assembled, through witnesses, family members, and photographic evidence, that Soulmate had multiple cameras operating on board. Let me be specific, because the specificity is everything. There was a blink camera positioned at the stern of the pilot house, the covered cockpit area above deck, facing forward toward the bow, facing the exact area where people move, where people arrive when they board from the dinghy, the area that anyone coming aboard Soulmate from the water would have to pass directly through. How do we know it was a blink camera specifically? Lynette herself. She sent a screenshot to family members as a routine check-in, and in the top left corner of that image, embedded in the frame like a watermark, was a logo. The word blink. Blink is a specific security camera system produced by Amazon. It connects to your phone and uploads footage automatically to cloud storage. You do not need an active subscription for basic footage retention. The cloud record is created whether you think about it or not. Then there is a second camera, positioned at the front of the pilot house, facing back toward the stern, covering the opposite angle. Together, those two cameras provide coverage of essentially every angle of the covered cockpit. Anyone boarding, anyone moving through that space, anything that occurred there. How do we know about the second camera, Carly? She was aboard Soulmate in February, 2 months before Lynette disappeared. When asked about cameras, without any prompting, without being shown any photographs, she described a camera beneath the bimini at the front of the pilot house, facing aft. That is independent confirmation from someone who was physically on that vessel 2 months before the night in question. And per Banfield's investigation, there was at minimum one additional camera below deck, confirmed by witnesses who had been aboard the vessel. Above deck, 2 cameras covering every angle of the cockpit. Below deck, at least one more, all of them potentially running on the night of April 4th. All of them potentially uploading to cloud storage in real time. Now think about what that actually means. Brian says he and Lynette never returned to Soulmate on the night of April 4th. He says that boat was sitting empty and dark from approximately 7 to 30 in the evening until morning. He says nobody was on it. Nothing happened on it. If those cameras were running, and there is no reason to believe they were not, they recorded whatever occurred in that cockpit and below deck on the night Lynette disappeared. If nobody came aboard, the cameras show an empty boat. Brian's story holds. But if someone came aboard, if the dinghy returned, if Brian and Lynette were on that vessel, if something happened aboard Soulmate that night, the cameras may have captured it. And here is the part I believe Brian may not have fully thought through when he arranged to move that boat toward the United States. Blink cameras upload to Amazon cloud servers, which means even if Brian went through that vessel before the delivery captain arrived and wiped every local file from every device, the cloud record may already exist on servers he cannot touch, servers that CGIS, the Coast Guard Investigative Service working directly with the Department of Justice, can access with a federal subpoena. Because Amazon is a United States company, and a federal subpoena served on Amazon Web Services is fully enforceable. Per military.com, the Coast Guard confirmed the vessel, Soulmate, is in the custody of CGIS as part of an active criminal investigation. No additional details. They do not need to announce what is on those cameras. Not yet. They just need to find it. And they have the boat. The cameras are critical, but they are not the only electronic evidence on that vessel. And I want to walk through the complete picture, because it is significant. There is the battery management system. A newer system installed after lightning damage destroyed the original. And newer battery management systems log every electrical event on the vessel, time-stamped. Every time a light switches on, every time the water pump runs, every time the stove is activated, every time a device is placed on a charger. All of it logged with a timestamp. If Lynette came back to that boat on the night of April 4th, she would have showered. That was her routine. Carly confirmed it. She would come aboard, go below, and rinse off the salt water. The water pump would have run. The hot water system would have fired. The log would show it. If Lynette's Apple Watch, which she habitually removed around dinner time and placed on the charger because the battery was deteriorating, if that watch came aboard and went onto the charger on Soulmate that night, the battery management log records a charging event, time-stamped. If those events appear in the log after 7:30 on the evening of April 4th, Brian's account collapses because he says no one was on that boat. And then there is the Starlink, the satellite internet terminal mounted high on the mast to maximize signal range. Any device that came within range of Soulmate's Starlink network, any phone, any Apple Watch connected through a phone, would have automatically connected. That connection was logged on SpaceX servers, remote servers, accessible by federal subpoena. Even if Brian wiped every device on that boat, every tablet, every laptop, every phone, before handing the vessel over to the delivery captain, the Starlink connection records at SpaceX would still exist, showing whether Lynette's phone and watch connected to that network on the night of April 4th, showing when, showing for how long. That data is either there or it is not, and if it is there, it is sitting on SpaceX servers right now, waiting for a subpoena. Per CBS News, CGS investigators have been actively conducting witness interviews. The investigation is intensifying. The digital evidence is being pulled, and investigators who are specifically trained in maritime crime, who know exactly how these systems function and precisely where the data is stored, are doing the pulling. Now I want to handle something carefully, because the phrase "charges are coming" deserves measured treatment. Brian Hooker has not been charged. He is not under indictment. No arrest warrant has been issued. His attorneys have maintained his innocence throughout. The Bahamian prosecutor who reviewed the case following his 5-day detention determined there was insufficient evidence at that time to file charges and released him pending further investigation. But the language now emerging from this investigation is not the language of a case going cold. Military.com. The seizure was executed as part of a complex surveillance and interdiction operation. Per CBS News, the probe has intensified in recent days. Per a source cited by Brian Entin, there is significant activity behind the scenes, and more progress should be expected in the weeks ahead. And per the way federal investigations of this nature typically operate, CGIS does not front-run their cases. They build them. They gather everything. They analyze it methodically. They secure the chain of custody. And when they are ready, they move. Per reporting on federal conviction rates, when the Department of Justice brings a case to trial, they succeed more than 95% of the time. It's because they do not bring cases they are not prepared to win. The cameras are on that boat. The battery logs are inside that boat. The Starlink records are on SpaceX servers. The AIS data exists, showing an 11-hour blackout. The witnesses who heard a significant splash after 9:30 and observed a horizontal flare are in communication with authorities. The 2015 police report documenting a prior domestic incident is on record, and Carly's direct account of the threat Brian made to throw Lynette overboard so that nobody could find her is now preserved on camera in Brian Entin's interview. Are charges coming? I do not know. Nobody outside of CGS and the Department of Justice knows. But the trajectory, the evidence, the language, and the fact that the boat that was supposed to quietly sail back to Brian Hooker is instead sitting wrapped in federal crime scene tape at Fort Pierce. All of it is pointing in one direction. Let me return to Carly. Because there is something she said in Brian Entin's interview that has not been highlighted enough. Entin asked her, "Do you think he will ever tell the full story?" And Carly said, "We are thinking of eventually, down the line if it comes to it, giving him an ultimatum. Tell us where she is, and maybe less sentencing if you get sentenced. But I highly doubt he will, because of the chance that he could still get away with it. Tell us where she is. Not tell us what happened. Tell us where she is." Carly has already arrived at her own conclusion about what happened, what she is asking for, what she is prepared to offer reduced sentencing in exchange for, is the location of her mother's body. She is 29 years old, and she is mapping out what kind of deal she could offer the man who raised her from the age of 4, in exchange for her mother's whereabouts. That is the reality Darlene Hamlet and Carly Ellsworth are living every single day. And Brian is in Michigan behind 2 attorneys, silent. Per CBS News, his current whereabouts are not confirmed. His U.S.-based attorney declined to comment. Per Carly's account in Entin's interview, Brian has attempted to reach out to her a few times, but she does not want to respond. She does not want to see him. And Darlene, the woman whose daughter is missing, he has not called her. Not once since the earliest days of the investigation. If Brian's account is true, if a terrible accident took Lynette from him, then he is also a person in grief. He also lost someone, and the thing a grieving person does, the thing any innocent man would do, is reach toward the people who are also broken. He would call Darlene. He would sit beside Carly. He would be the loudest voice demanding that investigators find his wife. He is in Michigan, behind lawyers. Silent. Let me bring this all the way home. 2 major developments are working together tonight. Reporter Brian Entin sat down with Carly Ellsworth and her boyfriend Steve. Carly confirmed, on camera, that 2 years before Lynette disappeared, Brian threatened to throw her overboard. He told her he would kill her and put her in the ocean where no one would ever find her. That threat is now documented on video, in Carly's own words, and the woman who received that threat is now missing from a boat in the ocean, and Ashleigh Banfield confirmed through witnesses, family, and photographic analysis that Soulmate had multiple cameras actively recording. A blink system at the stern of the pilot house, a camera at the forward end facing aft, and at least 1 camera below deck. All of them potentially uploading directly to Amazon Cloud Storage. Storage that CGS can access with a federal subpoena, whether Brian deleted local files or not. The Coast Guard confirmed this is an ongoing criminal investigation. A complex surveillance and interdiction operation was used to seize that vessel. Agents are going through every centimeter of it right now. The battery logs, the Starlink records, the camera footage, the physical evidence, all of it. Brian Hooker has not been charged. His attorneys maintain his innocence. Those are the facts, and they always matter. And Lynette Hooker has been missing for over 40 days. She sewed the bimini on that boat herself. She funded it. She chose that life because she loved the ocean. She called it her happy place. She documented every beautiful day on it for the world to see. Those cameras, the ones she may not have known were running, may now be the very thing that delivers her justice. CGS has the boat. We will be here for everything that follows. If you have any information connected to the night of April 4th, about the vessel Azura or its crew, about any search areas, about anything related to the disappearance of Lynette Hooker. Please submit it through the CGS Tips application. Anonymous. Available on iOS and Android. Link is in the description. Please support Carly and Darlene's GoFundMe. Searchable as Lynette Hooker Missing in Bahamas. Subscribe and enable notifications, because this case is building towards something, and when it breaks, you need to be here. Darlene, Carly, every single day we have not stopped.